Marcus Ashford stood at the altar of the Grand Cathedral, his jaw set in grim resignation. At 42, he had built an empire through steel will and calculated decisions. This marriage was simply another business transaction, a merger of families to save his company from hostile takeover. He had never met Elena Moretti. Their families had arranged everything through lawyers and intermediaries. He knew only that she was 35, from old money now diminished, and desperate enough to agree to this arrangement. The terms were clear: a marriage in name only, separate lives under one roof, and a substantial financial settlement for her family. The organ music swelled through the vaulted space. Marcus straightened his shoulders, preparing himself for a lifetime of polite distance and cold formality. Then she appeared at the far end of the aisle. Even through the heavy cathedral veil that obscured her face, Marcus could see her hesitant steps. She walked alone, her father having passed years ago. Something in her solitary progress stirred an unexpected ache in his chest. He pushed it aside. Sentiment had no place in business. She reached the altar steps, and the priest began the ceremony. Marcus heard his own voice responding on autopilot, the words meaningless sounds. He studied what little he could see of her. Graceful hands that trembled slightly, the elegant line of her neck, the way she held herself with quiet dignity despite the circumstances. When the moment came to lift the veil, Marcus reached forward mechanically. His fingers grasped the delicate fabric, and he drew it back slowly. The world stopped. The woman before him had warm brown eyes that held oceans of unspoken emotion. There were fine lines at their corners that spoke of laughter and sorrow both. Her face was beautiful not in the polished way of youth, but in the way that comes from truly living. And in those eyes, he saw something that stopped his breath entirely. Recognition, not of having met before, but something deeper, a mirror of his own hidden loneliness. The weight of responsibilities carried alone, the dreams deferred and sacrificed, and beneath it all, a flicker of hope she was trying desperately to hide. She was looking at him the same way, her lips parting slightly in surprise. Whatever she had expected, it was not this sudden, crackling awareness between them. The priest continued speaking, but Marcus could not look away. For the first time in 20 years, since he had buried himself in work after his first devastating heartbreak, he felt something stir in the frozen chambers of his heart. She blinked, and a single tear traced down her cheek. Not a tear of sadness, but something more complex. He watched it fall, and without thinking, he lifted his hand and gently brushed it away with his thumb. Her eyes widened at the tender gesture. It had not been part of their agreement. The priest asked for the rings. Marcus took her hand, and the touch sent warmth flooding through him. Her fingers were cool, delicate, yet he could feel a strength in them. When he slid the ring onto her finger, he did it slowly, deliberately, meeting her eyes the entire time. When it was her turn, her hands shook. She steadied them with visible effort, and placed the ring on his finger with such care that he felt his throat tighten. The priest pronounced them married. Marcus knew what came next. A chaste, brief kiss to satisfy tradition. Nothing more. But as he leaned toward Elena, something shifted in the air between them. Her eyes fluttered closed, and when his lips met hers, it was not the cold formality he had planned. It was gentle, questioning, and achingly real. He felt her sharp intake of breath, felt her lean into him just slightly before catching herself. When they parted, they stood frozen for a moment, staring at each other in wonder and confusion. The congregation applauded politely, unaware that the carefully constructed walls of two guarded hearts had just begun to crack. At the reception, they sat beside each other at the head table, acutely aware of every accidental touch. When his arm brushed hers, electricity sparked between them. When she laughed softly at something his cousin said, he found himself wanting to hear that sound again and again. Finally, as the evening wore on, Marcus leaned close to her ear. His voice was rough with emotion he could not name. "This was supposed to be simple," he said quietly. Elena turned to him, her eyes searching his face. She spoke for the first time that day, her voice low and musical, tinged with the faintest accent of her Italian heritage. "Nothing about life is ever simple," she replied. "I learned that long ago." "What else did you learn?" he asked, genuinely wanting to know. She smiled, sad and wise, that the heart has reasons that reason cannot understand, that sometimes the longest journey is the one from the head to the heart, and that it is never too late, Mr. Ashford, never too late to begin again. Marcus felt something break open inside him. All his careful calculations, all his protective barriers, all his certainty that he had moved past the need for connection, it all crumbled in the face of her quiet wisdom and the undeniable pull between them. "Marcus," he said softly. "Call me Marcus." Her smile deepened, reaching her eyes. "Elena," as the reception swirled around them, they sat in their small bubble of newfound possibility. Neither knew what tomorrow would bring, but for the first time in decades, both dared to hope that perhaps this arranged marriage might become the greatest surprise of their lives. Sometimes grace arrives disguised as duty, and sometimes the walls we build to protect ourselves become the very prisons from which we most need to escape. Marcus reached under the table and found Elena's hand. She laced her fingers through his and held on tight. They were home. If this story touched your heart, please share, and subscribe for more tales of hope and second chances. Leave a comment below telling us about a time when life surprised you with an unexpected blessing. Your stories inspire us to keep creating. Read Triclaw can make mistakes. Please double-check responses.